What's good, chat? Yo, where's my charger? Cornell. Yo, give me some of that popcorn, bro. I'm hungry as hell. I can't lie. Yo, what's
Where's
good, Puck?
Agan, bro? I need Agan.
Oh my goodness, bro. I'm not debating Gagan in the middle of night, bro.
Your quoting is so terrible. Don't ever lie like that again.
Bro, if they do get Agan in debate, this shit is gonna be a wild one. Alright. Spawn. Oh, he joined. That's cool. Oh, damn, a lot of people joined. Yo, what's good, chat?
Yeah, hello?
Oh, yo, what's up? Yo, Spawn. Yo, dude, before we continue, I gotta tell you something.
Go ahead.
I apologize for calling you milady. I saw your role as a female, so I assumed you were a female.
Now you're good.
Alright. So, you want to discuss now?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, so I'm gonna make this simple and as narrow as possible so there won't be any room for misunderstandings or equivocation. My simple proposition for the discussion is going to be whether Gregory Tatev thought that St. Gregory Nazienzus taught to diophysitism or to two natures in this case. And it's not about whether Gregory Tatev himself teaches it. I mean, it's obvious, but whether he thinks that St. Gregory Nazianzus teaches it. And I argue for the positive, providing the quote which I have sent. And it actually also includes the Armenian version of it, so there won't be any issues of mistranslations. And as I recall, it reads Yerku Kataliyal Banutsion if you were to translate it, if you were to spell it in Armenian. Here, I'll even send it to the chat. Yerku in this case would be the two, Kataliyal would be the complete, and Banutsion and would be uh, natures in the context.
Yep. I think two complete natures made one as well, according to the way St. Gregory of Tatev formulates his beliefs
So
and the way
okay,
Nazianzus
okay.
does as well.
So wait. You think that the two complete natures can be synonymously used with the one nature?
I don't think I don't think you can have correlativity between two natures
No, I'm
because
saying
they're
you
not
said that for.
numerically identical.
I'm not talking about correlativity. What you said that for Gregory Tatev to say two complete natures is the same thing to say one nature, and I'm asking, okay,
No,
so
I didn't say that. I said for him, when he says two complete natures, it's only encapsulating the two complete things that made the one nature.
okay, okay, sure, I can agree to that. Like, yeah, I'll even concede to the
There you go.
context that he's talking about. Well, he's contrasting, and to even give the context, he's asked the question, why does St. Gregory Nazianzus say two natures, where St. Cyril says one incarnate nature? And the context which Gregory Tatev explains that St. Gregory Nazianzus was combating Apollinarianism, who
That's correct.
refused to confess the completeness of the human nature. And
Yep.
so he taught two complete natures. But that's not my issue. Like, I can agree to that interpretation. My
Exactly.
argument is that he just enumerated them, which would be an issue for your position.
No, it's
Like,
not.
yes, it
How is
is.
that? How is it an issue to say two complete?
Well, it's issue to you can say there's two natures in the first place because Severus
That's not
himself
true.
argues this. Yes, it is true.
That's
I'm
not
willing
true.
to provide. Yeah, I'm willing to demonstrate how that's the case.
Okay, number one, world set high. And why does Saint Severus say against the grammarian? Again, whereas the genuine and sincere tradition testifies, for him each nature is. What was the name? The grammarian changes it and wrote, for in him both natures are. And what could be more ridiculous and foolish than this change? For the formula each nature is and both natures are differ in no sense whatsoever. And then the point of this quote is, why does he say that the genuine and sincere tradition testifies this quote is true? Why does Saint Severus testify this to be the Orthodox faith?
Okay, can you send the quote so I'll know what you're talking about?
I sent in the side chat.
He
Okay,
sent it in the side chat. It's
okay,
if
let me
anyone
read
gets
it
there.
real quick.
What's up, Maximus? What's good?
It's good. Okay, let me read it, the quote real quick. So, I'll get to what you're gonna say. again, whereas the Genesis for why? For in him each nature is. He changed him for in him both natures are. What could be more ridiculous than for that exchange? For the formulas, each nature is and both natures are. Okay, but I don't think that answers my objection in any way. And I think you're getting confused on what I'm trying to argue here, so I will clarify it for your sake and for the
You
sake of
said
the participants in the voice call.
you said that.
My
I
issue,
know what you
again,
said.
my issue is not that Gregory Tatev says there's natures, like or using the term nature in a plurality. I don't have issues with that. I think Orientals affirm it. That's not my problem. My problem is the fact that Gregory Tatev enumerates them into two complete natures,
So does
which
Saint
is an issue for.
Severus. Saint Severus said the same. He said that each nature is in Christ. Does that make him
Yeah,
a
but he
dyophysite?
doesn't say there's two natures in Christ. He literally
Yes,
says
he
that's
does.
heretical.
What does it
You know
mean?
he
What
doesn't.
does it mean
No,
for
he
both?
doesn't.
Wait,
He
why?
literally
Hold on.
says in one of his
What is?
letters, hold on.
Why are you
He literally
interrupting me?
says in one of his letters to say that there's
Why are you
two, Christ
interrupting
is
me?
in two natures because you're making false
I'll
claims.
grant that because Leo says the way in which is completely wrong. We can talk about Leo
Bro,
after. He's
what Leo
talking.
says has
Why are you
nothing to do.
interrupting
What
me?
Leo says has
It
nothing
does.
to do with this discussion. No, it
It does.
doesn't.
It does.
No, it
This
doesn't.
is an
No,
act.
it
Why are
doesn't.
you just interrupting me?
Because you're
Why is
not
this guy just
answering my
interrupt? Just stop.
because you're not argument.
I'm about to
You're not
literally answer you.
answering my
Am I
argument.
able to answer a question if I'm being okay? Am I able to answer a question or not even an argument, a question if it's the case that you're going to interrupt me? Obviously not. So let me speak.
Yeah,
You
okay,
said that.
then answer my
Okay.
question if
Oh
you
my
want me to be
goodness. You
interrupted here.
said that.
You're
He
literally
said
not
that he.
answering my question,
Why are
just
you just
bringing
in,
in
dude?
nonsense.
How am I able to answer your question if you're just gonna
Because you're
jibber
not
jabber? Let
answering
me
my
just speak for
question,
two
dude.
seconds.
Okay,
Genuinely.
go ahead. I'm letting you
Am
to
I
speak for two
able to answer
seconds.
your question if I'm
Go ahead,
interrupted?
you're
Hello?
able to speak for 2 seconds.
Genuinely. Okay.
Go ahead, you're
Okay,
able to
let
speak
me
for 2 seconds.
speak. Okay. Oh
Dude,
my
I'm
lord,
literally
is this
letting
guy
you.
good? Let me
Nobody's
speak.
holding your
So
head.
okay. Oh my, let me know when you're done, bro. Okay, you're done?
Um,
Thank you. So what I was saying
no
is,
problem.
according to Saint
Continue.
Severus, you said that he's making. Oh my lord, you're saying that he apparently doesn't enumerate the natures, but presumably to speak of a plurality is obviously designating that there's two things in Christ. Why does Saint Severus say that both natures are in Christ, and he says each
Okay, well,
nature is
whatever
in
it says,
Christ?
okay, whether Sever says there's both natures in Christ doesn't have to do with anything what I'm objecting so far.
No, 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 because it's on clip. It's
Yes,
on
yes,
clip.
yes,
You said
yes.
that we don't say two natures in Christ in any sense at all. So why are you backtracking now? It's on
I'm not
clip as well.
backtracking,
Why are you
dude.
backtracking?
Literally, again, once
Yes, you
again,
are. You
not answering my
verbatimly said that
questions,
it's on
dude.
clip.
I'm asking
You
you,
said that on
why
clip.
is
You said
Gregory
that on
Tatev
clip, by the way.
enumerating two complete natures?
Again, there's no issue for us to say Christ is in two natures in this qualified sense. That's my point. St. Gregory of Tatev makes that
He's not
clarification
even saying
because he
into,
even
he's saying
has. Let
two.
me
He's saying
speak.
two. He's not
Oh
even
my
saying
lord,
into.
let me
Dude, I'm
speak.
asking you
Just
to,
let me
dude, I'm
speak.
not going to let you
Dude,
speak if
oh
you're not
my
going to
god, am
address
I
my
able to
question.
answer your. I didn't even
Dude,
finish.
I'm not going to let you address if you're not going to address my objection. You're talking about in two. I did not mention in two. I'm talking about two complete natures. There's no in mentioned in this
Okay, okay.
statement.
Wait, what? Okay, then, wait, that's even more orthodox for me. What's the
Dude,
issue with
what do you
saying
mean
two
what?
complete natures? Oh, you know the whole dispute. Hold on. You know the whole dispute about diophysitism and miaphysitism. It's not saying whether there's two natures. It's the confusion is saying that the two natures united and the way in which the unity is designated.
What
For
does that
you
have
guys,
to
you
do
say
with the
two natures remain.
proposition, dude? You're literally backtracking away from what originally we were supposed to talk about. I'm asking you. Hold on. I will repeat the proposition so we won't have to backtrack. Gregory Tatev says that, according to St. Gregory theologian, that Christ has received two complete natures. So there's a way in which you can say there's two natures, but at the same time, you're not able to enumerate them because number introduces division.
Is there an issue? Okay, that's completely true. Yeah, what's the issue with that? Where's like the
Okay, so
mutual
you're saying
opposition?
there's a way.
Is there
Okay, so
an
you're saying there's a
okay?
sense in which you can
I
say
didn't
there's
even.
two natures, but and then again, that same principle of enumeration is going to lead you into division.
Okay, good, good. Are you done?
Uh, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, why is
Yo,
that
can someone
enumerated?
can someone moderate, please?
Okay,
Like,
why is
Yeah,
yes?
I'm
Why is
on.
the
I'm on.
enumerating principle according to Saint Gregory of Tatev? The reason why he speaks of two natures or two complete natures is because the two complete principles make one complete nature. I mean, yeah, one complete nature, and the way in which Nazianzus also explains it.
Okay, so hold on a second. You're saying the way in which he is using it is because there is two natures, and these two complete natures make up that one nature.
Yep, that's
Hmm.
the way in which
Saint
Saint Gregory
Gregory
of Tatev
Tatev
explains
rejects
it.
that. Gregory
Show
Tatev
me where he
rejects that,
does
but
that.
okay.
Show me
Okay,
the
sure, go ahead.
negation where it says that.
Go. Okay. Okay, sure,
Okay,
go.
let me explain. Let
Yeah,
me
yeah, yeah,
explain.
yeah, of
Let
course.
me explain
Here,
something before you
I'll
do.
even
Let me
send you. I'll
explain.
even send
I
you.
know the
I'll
quote.
even
That
send you
quote
the
is not
Armenian
gonna,
translation.
dude.
I'll
Oh
even
my
send you the
God,
Armenian
dude. Let me
translation.
finish. Let me finish. There's a
You asked
qualification.
me for a quote. I'm
Dude,
sending you a
there's
quote,
a
but you're not even.
qualification which I didn't even finish. Okay? So the qualification is, I'm not interrupting, by the way, he did. The qualification is to say two natures is not the dispute. St. Cyril himself addresses what the dispute is. It's not to say two natures because both sides agree on it. The issue is to say how the two natures unite. Two complete natures is agreed by both parties. We both agree onto that. The way the two complete natures unite is the way in which it
Severus
differs.
doesn't, but okay.
Okay, show me where St. Severus says the two complete natures cannot be distinguished into.
No, I'm saying Severus rejects that you can enumerate the natures into two.
Repeat that.
I'm saying Severus rejects that you can enumerate the natures into two.
Okay, good. Why does St. Severus say that you can say in him each nature is?
Severus also says you cannot say that because that's heretical.
You know why he says that? Because the way you guys say in Chalcedon differs to the way Cyril says
Okay,
it.
so wait. So there's a sense in which it is rejected, and there's another sense in
Completely
which it is
true.
accepted.
Completely, or yes, yes, definitely.
Okay, cool. So what is the okay? You know what? All right, I'm gonna leave that off to another discussion. I'm not gonna back off from the proposition. So originally you said that Severus himself, there's a sense in which he affirms two natures, and then there's another sense in which he rejects two natures. And apparently, this affirmation has to do with what Gregory Tatev is using to say that there's two complete natures.
Correct.
Okay, so can you
You know
show
why?
me? No, hold on a second. Can you show me where Severus himself says that there is two complete natures to denote the completeness? Because last time I
Repeat
checked,
that.
said, okay, I'll repeat it again. Can you show me a quote where Severus himself says two natures, not from two, but two natures to denote the completeness? Because last time I recall,
Yeah,
the way
I
in which
already
he tried
showed
to
you.
denote the completeness, no, you didn't. You just showed both natures. That didn't include
Are
enumeration.
the two what in him both natures are? What does that tell you?
Okay, that doesn't tell me anything about what I'm trying to argue. I'm asking you, can you show me a
You said.
quote where
You,
Severus says two natures? That's what I'm asking you.
what does it mean for both natures to be in Christ?
Again, that doesn't mean anything for with what I'm addressing. That's just an assumption.
This is so petty.
That's
Wait,
not
hold on.
petty, dude. I'm
Does he have
literally
to say
asking you to bring
two
something,
nature?
and you can't even
Why
bring
aren't
a
you just
quote.
screaming?
While I'm
Hold
willing to
on.
do the
Is
opposite.
okay. Well,
Okay, dude,
okay.
look, I know
Is
you
in
haven't
him
read
both
your
natures
father. Like,
are?
I get that.
Can you?
Dude, I know you haven't read your father. I
I've
get
read
that. But you don't
this,
have
by the way.
to manifest this
I'm just
much, dude.
okay. He's interrupting me now. I'm
Because you're not
manifesting.
addressing
What
my
does it mean
objection
for
once
both
again. You're
nature?
working on
Okay, you're
assumptions.
interrupting me now. I'm not
Because you're
interrupting,
working
by the
on
way.
assumptions. I'm not
Okay,
going to
what does it
let
mean
you
for?
speak.
Oh my God. Why does he say for in him each nature is? What does that mean?
Okay, that doesn't mean that there's two natures for Severus. So again, I'm going to ask you,
Wait,
can
wait,
you
wait,
show me
wait.
a
Okay.
quote where
According to
he says,
Severus, according to Severus, no, this
hold
is
on a second,
easily gonna be
hold on,
disproven.
you're
I'm
not,
just gonna refute you.
okay,
I'm
dude,
gonna refute. I'm gonna
let's
demonstrate
just
how that's the
remember the
case.
fact, let's also remember the fact that he didn't bring what I asked him to. He just worked up himself into assumptions. So I'll ask you again, can you, or can you not, show me a quote where Severus himself verbatim says there's two natures, not from two natures, but two
What? That's
natures.
just verbatim fallacies. No, I didn't say
Like,
from
that's
two,
not a
by the way.
verbatim fallacy.
Um,
I'm literally
okay,
saying, can
okay,
you do that
okay.
or no?
You said
Can you do that
verbatim.
or
You
no?
said
You listen.
verbatim. I'm about to
Can you
explain.
do that or
I'm
no?
about to show you.
I'm not
I
asking
can
you to
show you
explain. I'm
something that
telling you, can you show me a
I'm
quote where
about to
Severus
just
does
show
that or
you.
no?
Okay, hold on. You're just interrupting me now. I let you speak. Stop being weird. So look, obviously
I'm
the
not being weird.
propositional content. Okay, stop. Genuinely, the propositional content by saying both nature are in Christ and into Christ is into. There's no difference because of the fact that the person saying it, obviously they're going to affirm to the fact that the natures that united are two. So when you designate that two natures are in Christ and you say both natures are, it's because plurality is in the sense that the two natures are what's actually united. So when he says both natures are in Christ, that is equivalent to the proposition of saying two natures are in Christ according to the propositional content of the two propositions, meaning that the two
Yeah, but
propositional contents actually correspond to each other. So yes, when he says both natures are in Christ or each nature is, yes, it is the same thing as saying two natures are in Christ, or Christ is in two natures. Yeah, so to say Christ is in two natures for our position then is fine. So is there any rebuttal to that?
Yes, there is a rebuttal in the fact that the proposition into natures is going to be the same thing as there being both natures in Christ, especially for Severus when it comes to him explaining what it means on how enumeration works, because he himself makes it clear in his exchange with letter to Sergius that enumeration is not applied because there's a union, and because there's a unity there you cannot say that Christ is two in any sense, whether it be of nature or hypostasis or person. The only sense in which you can speak is by saying from two, which again does not address,
That's not
like, even
true.
if I were to translate this, yes, it is true.
You
So
haven't
what I'm going
show
to
me
show
where he
you
says
is,
that.
okay, sure, give me a moment, I'll get you to quote.
By the way, that doesn't even refute what I said. So you didn't
Yes, it
actually
did.
address the
Okay,
propositional
so I don't.
content
Okay, so in
correspondence,
case if
the way in
hold
which
on,
the
hold
two.
on.
Okay.
Okay, it's cool. You're saying it didn't refute it. I'm going to address how it refuted it. You made the assumption that the proposition both natures and two natures uh, actually can be exchanged synonymously in this context, in as much for Severus, there's a sense in which you can affirm into to understand that both natures are in Christ. And I'm saying, again, even if I were to grant that, the dispute is about into per se, but whether you can say that they are two complete natures. So and that's again going to be my case. And for me, what I'm arguing is to say that both
What?
natures in Christ is not the equivalent of saying there is two natures in the first place.
Wait. So what's like the propositional content difference with saying Christ is in both natures and saying Christ is in two natures? Because presumably for both sides, what united
Again,
are
the
two natures.
issue is not
So,
about being into
so wait,
natures. Hold
can you
on a
answer
second.
the
Hold on a
question,
second. Hold
please?
on a second. Hold on a
Can
second.
you
Hold on a
answer the
second.
question?
It's not
Can you
about the
answer the
into natures.
question? Genuinely
It's not
answer
about
the
the into
question. That's
natures.
the whole.
The question
That's
doesn't
what
have
I'm
to do
actually
with what I'm
contending.
arguing.
What's
The
the
question doesn't have to
propositional
do anything
content
with what
difference,
I'm
please? Go
arguing.
ahead.
The
Okay, what's the
question has
content
nothing to do.
difference? Hello.
Okay, dude, the question
It
doesn't
has
have
nothing to
anything to do
do.
with what I'm addressing. I've
Well,
literally
I can
said
just
this
motivate
multiple
its
times, dude.
relevance. I can just motivate its relevance. I can motivate the relevance. So the relevancy is the fact that you said that Severus doesn't say into in any sense, or to say two
No,
natures
I
in
said
Christ in
that
any
Severus
sense.
doesn't say
And if
two
there's,
in any
oh
sense.
my gosh,
I literally said
okay,
Severus doesn't say two in any
okay,
sense.
okay. So why does Severus say both natures are in Christ, which is of the same correspondence with saying Christ is in two natures?
Again, the issue isn't into natures, but whether there are two natures, not into or from two, but simply taken two.
What's the issue
I'm
with
not even going to
saying? Hold
mention that
on.
Dioscorus himself has
What's the
rejected it. I'm going
issue?
to go
Hold
to
on.
Severus.
What's okay? Wait. What's the issue? Wait. What's the issue with saying
Okay,
there are
so
two
the issue
natures?
is going to
There's
be
that's a whole different
it's going to
dispute, by
be
the way.
first of all inconsistent.
You
Okay,
already
hold
said you
on.
don't want to go to that. You
You,
already said you don't want to go to that. So I don't know why
no,
you're
I never
bringing it
said that.
back.
Hold on a
I'll
second. I
explain
didn't
it
say I
again.
want to go there.
Okay,
I'm
I'll
going to
explain it
explain
again.
it.
I'll explain it
No, you
again.
didn't, dude. You
Okay.
asked me a question and now you're going to explain it. No, dude, I'll answer your question. Thank you. So the issue is going to be with the fact that on how Severus understands enumeration to work, especially when it comes to understanding the natures of Christ. After the union, there isn't any way which you can say Christ is two, except for saying from two to understand the distinguished peculiarity of each natures. But when it comes to enumerating simply taken two, this is rejected by Severus simply because duality dissolves the unity, and hence you can't say that
You
there
know
is
why?
two natures in any sense.
Okay, good. Why did you can't say two natures in any sense? Why does he say both natures are in Christ? You still haven't responded to that.
Again, you said into, and I'm saying the issue isn't into, but saying two natures.
What does okay? What does two and into mean? Like, what's the difference?
For position is going to be into is going to denote Christ existing according to a certain mode, whereas two is going to be taken the nature's simpliciter.
Wait, repeat that. Sorry, like I didn't hear you.
Okay, so the difference between saying into natures and two natures taken simply can be contrasted in the same way. For example, how Dioscorus says in Chalcedon, I'm ready to say from two, but not two natures. The former denotes a certain mode in which Christ exists. And for you, if I were to take your explanations, it's going to be the same way as to say, oh, Christ exists in two modes, as being God and as being man, and then it's going to refer to two simply, which isn't
That's
going to
not
denote
what he
any
even
mode, but it's
means.
going to denote the natures. What?
That's not even what he means, by the way. Um,
Yes, he
but
does.
anyways, that's not what he means by into.
Okay, you know
But
what? Sure.
anyways,
All right.
so
Let's not.
to
Okay.
say two
Okay.
natures,
Let's
I'll
not go.
just okay. Why are you? I just let you speak. So obviously, to say two natures, trivially, like there's no issue with saying that for each side, right? So, I've already explained that you don't want to go to that side, so I'll just repeat again. So two natures and like to say two natures isn't necessarily an issue, right? So presumably, if you've read Cyril on his letter to Achaicus or letter 44, he would explain that the issue isn't saying two natures, one nature. The issue is saying the way in which the two natures became one in henosis. For you, you dispute that by saying that there's two natures. For us, we say that there's one nature after the union because the two are in henosis. That is what's being dealt with. So two natures for both sides or two complete natures for both sides is trivially true. The issue is the way in which it's going to be united. So again, how did the two natures unite for Gregory of Tatev and the way it united for Gregory of Nazianzus in the scope of Gregory of Tatev according to Gregory of Nazianzus?
So for Gregory Tatev, as he himself explains, the beginning it begins from two natures in which through henosis, or for you to know that, and as how the person of the word ineffably and wholly takes on the human nature, which includes all the properties of flesh and soul, into his own personality, of which resulted the one incarnate
Where does he
nature.
say that? Don't add an hypostaton into this because he doesn't teach that.
I literally didn't, and
But
I'm
why are you adding
Pastaton.
on
I'm
to that?
saying what he said word for
He does.
word.
Yes, you
What?
did. Yes, you did.
I didn't. I'm
No,
literally.
he
I
doesn't
even
say.
gave
Why
you
are
the
you
quote, dude.
lying?
What are you
Why are you
talking about?
lying?
I'm not
Don't add
lying.
that.
Here, I'll
No,
even send you the
stop,
quote right
stop,
now. No,
stop,
I'm not. I'm
stop.
not
I've
gonna
read the
stop,
book.
dude. No, I'm
Stop,
not gonna stop,
dude.
dude. You're asking
Dude,
me
you
for an
just lied.
explanation for
Okay,
the
I'm just
person
gonna.
himself.
Okay, I'm just gonna
Can you
let you.
please
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
stop interrupting each other?
He just called me a liar when I have
Go
the
ahead, bro.
quote like that. I even sent you the quote, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, I
he
get it. You
doesn't
don't read
say
quotes,
yes. I know
but
you're.
okay.
I know the.
If you,
Look, obviously.
could you guys just like read
Look,
some of the quotes real quick?
Okay, here's the quote I was
the
talking about.
quote
Oh
is
wait, no.
really simple.
This is
Like,
the first quote I
okay,
mentioned.
I'll read it. The unification of Christ has a beginning, a middle, and an
That
end.
is for the
The
beginning
beginning
part,
is two natures. The middle is the unification in one nature, and the end is the completion in one person. How is
and
this
then
in
here's the
any
quote.
sense the way in which
Again,
in
here's the second
hypostaton
quote.
is
Listen,
elaborated
this
by
is
Damascene and Maximus?
okay, dude. Here's the second quote that I was talking about. Here, I'll even
What does this
explain
prove?
how.
Do you want me to read the whole thing?
Sure, go ahead.
While we, the followers of the Orthodox faith, know the substance of the word before humanization was apart from them, and then I can't read that, as God is and creatures uncreated and created, temporal and eternal, and when the Creator willed to become human, God, the Word, in His perfect person and nature, not partially but totally ineffably united with the body, not taking a part of humanity, but in his personality gathering the total nature in all its part, that is our rational spirit, mind and body united with his divinity in an unconfused and inseparable union. What's the issue with this?
Okay, so the word gathers in his personality the totality of human nature.
Correct. You know why? Because the terminative principle of flesh itself is intrinsic of Godhead. What's the issue with that? Both sides
Okay,
agree.
so is his okay? What is this
Have you read
personality?
Mastrius on the Incarnation?
I don't read
Repeat
heretics on
that.
the incarnation, but I did that. Okay, I mean that Masters has nothing to do with it, but
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
okay. I mean, Gennadios would agree. Like, I think you would agree, right? So, the terminative principle of flesh, would you say it's intrinsic of Godhead or no?
Determinative principle. Okay, wait, you're asking if the humanity
Yeah,
is
the way in
intrinsic
which
to it according to determination? Hold on a second.
you can say by the terminative principle of flesh is intrinsic of Godhead because what actually terminates flesh is Godhead. Like God, the flesh itself, besides like first act, the way in which flesh is sustained is according to the fact that the word himself uses it as an instrument, and that is something we both agree on. So this isn't in hypostaton, because if you know what in hypostaton is saying is that the word himself terminates humanity in of his hypostasis such that the flesh subsists in God the word. But we don't affirm that because Gregory of Tatev highlights in that same quote that the two natures are not two wills, or there are no counter nuances of saying nature or will or operation to be two, and he says he does not divide them or nor speak of two in a different work. So if you've read Damascene on his philosophical chapters, he defines what in hypostaton is. that's chapter 44 from memory, he would just say that in hypostaton is saying that he brings flesh. The flesh itself is not a hypostasis, but it's in hypostaton insofar that it's not self-subsisting, but instead is going to be subsisting in the God in Godhead's hypostasis, or in the mode of existence of the Son, which is exactly what he doesn't teach, because he thinks that the one nature being one is the reason why there's a singular person, which is very different to the diophysite framework. So, can you now demonstrate how he teaches in hypostaton in the accordance of what the 6th century quote unquote church fathers of yours teach according to St. Gregory of Tatev?
I did. Yeah, I'm willing to do that. But before I proceed, I should note that you have brought forward your explanation on this position, taking that it is not en hypostaton, inasmuch that in his personality is understood that the Godhead is the terminative principle of humanity, in which the Godhead begins to use humanity as a form of instrument, whereas for us, it would be terminating humanity in such a level that the hypostasis of the word becomes the hypostasis of the flesh, so that the flesh acquires the word as its own hypostasis. And taken hypostasis here is defined as the self-subsistence or the subsistence of certain essence with idioms, as has been dogmatically defined. The reason why I think it is speaking about en hypostaton,
That's
even
not
though
how
I would
Cyril
learn that
defines it, by the way.
what
That's not how Cyril defines it. That's not how Cyril defines it, and Tatev is a Cyrillian. So that's like completely wrong to add such definition to the way in which Saint
Okay, you're
Gregory of
asking
Tatev
for my. Hold
identified
on a second.
hypostasis.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. That has nothing to do with anything. If you want to discuss about what Saint Cyril taught or not, we can get to that later on.
I didn't
But
say
now
Saint
we're
Cyril. I'm saying the way I'm saying the way Saint Gregory of Tatev identifies hypostasis isn't like that because he takes Cyril's definition.
okay. What do you think? Gregory Tatev uses the Armenian word for the term hypostasis.
Hypostasis for him means that which is
Hmm.
predicate of the common, the way Cyril defines
No,
it.
I'm not asking for a
So
definition. I'm
that
asking for
which
the
is predicate
Armenian
of the
term.
common, just some individual thing.
I'm not asking you for a definition. I'm asking for the Armenian term. What is the Armenian term that Gregory Tatev uses to denote the
I don't know
hypostasis?
Armenian.
Okay, so for Armenians, it's going to be Arons Navoritin, which is going to be the same thing as particular. Whereas Ans Navoritin, which is what my quote has used, is talking about something interchangeable with personality. Personality taken here as the rational individual, one can say. So the reason why I'm getting into that is because he says that the totality of human nature was gathered into his own personality. Personality here understood as the
I've already
rational
explained what that
individual.
means.
You explained that it means that the humanity was terminated by Godhead, but I don't see how you can get that reading from Gregory Tatev within that quote that
Because of the
his
fact that,
personality denotes,
yeah,
first of
yeah.
all, now hold on a second, I'm not done explaining. How you can get that conclusion that the Godhead, that by saying in his personality gathers the totality of nature, first of all, means that the Godhead is the principle of determining the humanity as existed. And second of all, on how,
We both
you know,
agree to this. I don't know why you're contending that.
uh, mm, okay, even if I did agree, even if we did agree to that in that sense, you again brought the differences in saying that although it is terminative, it just uses it as a mere instrument, whereas for us, it just becomes a hypostasis.
It's the
Whereas
symbol.
even though although Severus himself rejects that the humanity is a mere instrument, which I can get to that
He
later on if
does.
you like.
He does.
Yeah, he has
The
a quote
issue is
actually where it
okay.
says,
Hold on. Hold on. That's like I don't know why you want to shift. Anyways,
I'm not shifting, I was
do you know?
bringing my
Okay. Do
explanation.
you know?
And, I
Okay.
wasn't done
Oh
explaining,
my
right?
god. Okay. What do you think in hypostaton is?
Ju-
And,
Spawn,
okay,
Spawn,
and
just let
Yeah, let him finish.
yo Spawn, just let
Okay. Go
Maximus
ahead.
finish explaining them. Like you can bring up your points.
I bet. Okay.
Okay, so anhypostaton for us ultimately is going to be understood. First of all, there's two definitions, or three if you'd like, which St. John of Damascus brings in his philosophical chapters. First one is understood as something that which is conceived in a hypostasis, which he first contrasted with accidents and said, this is more proper to say that this is heterohypostatic than anhypostatic.
I'm speaking
And
about
then
the incarnation on
no, I'm
chapter
not talking
44.
about. I'm talking about the philosophical chapters. He first
I
says
know.
the
I know. I'm
yeah,
talking on the fact the way he understands the incarnation to be in
yeah, and I'm
hypostatic.
getting to
I
that,
don't care
and I'm
about
getting to
the
that. I'm
I
getting
don't
to
care
that.
how he
I'm getting to
understands
that.
hylomorphic composition, because I know
I'm
he
not talking about
understands
hylomorphism.
hylomorphic. He
This has
hold
nothing
on.
to do about hylomorphism, dude. I'm literally
I
saying
know,
what Saint
dude. Let me
Thomas.
just
Okay,
finish. Okay,
you know, but you're
he
bringing up
gives he,
hylomorphism.
dude. I don't know why you're giving me three
Yo,
explanations. I don't
yo.
need three
Okay.
explanations. Get to the point.
Okay, I'm
Like, I don't
bringing
know why
through
you're telling me all
definitions
this.
so there won't be any
I'm speaking
misunderstanding.
specifically on the incarnation. Why are we going to the
Yeah, and I'm getting
accidentals,
to
the
that, dude. If
hylomorphic
you're a little
understanding? Like, I don't
patient,
care.
okay, dude. If you were a little patient, maybe I could give you that.
Just go
He
to the
first takes
incarnation.
on. Okay, I'm getting
Yo,
to the
get out of the
incarnation. Let's
fucking
get to that.
road.
You asked for definition of the union and hypostaton. I'm giving you definition to of the hypostaton. First, an hypostaton is
Is
understood
my okay?
as the
My
species, which
question
is
is
in the
my question is
particulars.
not clear. I'll make it much clearer. My question is, how did Damascene and your fathers understand in hypostaton in Christ?
And hypostaton is understood in a sense that the humanity was not terminated as self-subsisting, but acquired the hypostasis of the word as its own hypostasis. Hypostasis taken here as the ultimate term in the genus of substance, by which one becomes, for example, the subject of operation and in a way of predication.
Cool.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
The way Damascene defines in hypostaton, um, regarding the incarnation, do you think that Saint Gregory of Tatev falls under that criterion of the way in which in hypostaton
Conceptually,
is
yes.
understood
Conceptually,
conceptually?
yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
In hypostaton, according to Philosophical Chapter 44, is saying, again, the nature is called in hypostaton, which has been assumed by another hypostasis, and in this has its existence. Thus, the body of the Lord, since it never subsisted of itself, not even for an instant, is not a hypostasis, but is in hypostaton. And this is because it was assumed by the hypostasis of God the Word, and this subsisted, and did so, and does have this for a hypostasis. So, this understanding of in hypostaton, where do you find this in St. Gregory of Tatev? Because the understanding of that, the trivially to say that the flesh is in God the Word, um, if it's under my bad, if you're gonna give it primitively the way in which St. Gregory of Tatev understands it, which is saying that the terminative principle of flesh is obviously intrinsic of Godhead because Godhead is the reason why flesh is even terminated, that's completely orthodox. We both agree to it. So there's a sense in which you can say the flesh is in God the Word, but that's the sense in which the terminative principle, which can have the content of flesh, can be intrinsic of Godhead. But that's not saying that the subsistence of flesh is in Godhead. That's a whole different proposition. So that's not going to be the same thing. So can you demonstrate where St. Gregory of Tatev says the subsistence of flesh is intrinsic of Godhead? Because saying the
Okay.
flesh is in
Yeah, I'm
Godhead
willing to
isn't the
do
same
that.
thing.
But before I do so, I'm going to have to ask you, since you brought this distinction, I'm going to have to ask you for the sake of audience and for the sake of understanding properly, what do you define subsistence to be and how and its relation to hypostasis?
Repeat that, sorry? I was looking at side chat.
Can you, okay, since you said the distinction has to do with us taking it also in the level of subsistence, I'm going to ask you, what do you define subsistence as?
Did you ask what do I define subsistence as?
Since you brought the distinction
Okay,
between.
I take subsistence to be like the ultimate terminus of substantial nature, by which it's rendered incommunicable.
Okay, and we would say, and since you explained our position, you would understand that when we say it's anhypostatic, it is understood in the sense that in the level of hypostasis or personality, so to say, because the humanity is terminated by the hypostasis of the word, um, it doesn't acquire in a moment its own subsistence. That is its own ultimate term by which it is rendered as incommunicable, but becomes communicated to the word.
Yep, and I don't think that he teaches that because he thinks that the two are abolished in union and there is a natural henosis. To even
Okay,
have in
wait.
hypostatic.
Wait. So your issue, so the objection on why there cannot be an hypostaton is because after the union, because there isn't two things to begin with, there cannot be any anhypostaton where one subsists in the other. Is that the issue?
That's for Saint Gregory of Tatev. For him, it's because the two natures are abolished as subsisting. Insofar that, my bad, I meant to say the two natures are abolished as being dual for him. He says the two are in natural henosis, that there's only a singular nature, and you guys wouldn't agree to that. And he explains why the fact that when he says a unified person, it doesn't reduce to your position, which is saying a unified singular person in two natures. And he says it's because if you say that there's two natures, you are dividing the one Christ, which is exactly our point since 451. If you say one nature, then you're orthodox. If you say one person unified in two natures, you're not Orthodox, you divide the one person. That is his position, which is not in hypostaton defined by Damascene or Maximus.
I don't think the last point actually has to do with anything because he himself explains that, of course, first of all, there cannot be any person without its own nature. He explains it in the Book of Questions that a person without a nature is just going to be a mere name or a noun. And so it
I
is
know.
nature which gives the person existence. Right. So to say that there's one person merely with two natures, that's, I mean, in itself, it's going to be insufficient. And then you need require to say there's one nature. But in what sense is this one nature going to be? He actually brings these conditions in the quote which I have sent you, which has to do with the context in which he is explaining whether you can say there's simply one nature or two natures become one or two natures. He explains you can say one nature simpliciter because that's heretical. You can say two natures become one because, in a sense, it's wrong, and then you can say there's two natures. And the only way which you can say there's one nature or the one incarnate nature is in these two following conditions. The first condition being is that the word that when the creator willed to become human, got the word in his perfect person and nature, not partially, but totally and ineffably united with the body.
I agree.
Uh, and the second condition is that he didn't take, so the first condition is on part of the word. He did not merely unite with his person,
I agree.
but entirely with his person and nature. And
I
on
agree.
part of the humanity, it isn't that he assumed some parts of humanity, but he gathered the total nature in all of its parts, whether it be rational spirit, mind, and body, united with his divinity. But in this union, he took on all of these, he gathered all of these natures in his personality. And even the Armenian wording says, Banast what's ir anzi. No, no, sorry. Ir anzi մեջ ժողովելով մարդկային անտրահելի բնությունը. So in his person, ir anzi մեջ. Person
Good.
not taken in a mere empty sense of prosopon, because
I
Armenians
agree.
have a more richer language, but ans taken as a more rational individual. And
Okay.
unless if you're willing to argue that this person or ans is not the word himself, which is another thing which we can get to if you'd like, the fact that he says
Okay.
that
Are you done?
no, no, I'm not done. I'm just going to bring the final conclusion that the
Go
fact
ahead.
that he says in his personality he brings the totality of his natures is enough to take that because it
That's
is
not in
in
hypostaton.
yes, that is in hypostaton.
In
Like
hypostaton, remember the qualification? It's talking about how the flesh's subsistence is terminated intrinsic of Godhead. It's not talking about the terminative principle being intrinsic of Godhead. That's a whole different thing we both agree on, which is exactly what St. Severus, St. Gregory of Haberius, my bad, Bar Hebreo, if you want to say, um, Philoxenus, every Miaphysite agrees to, and even St. Cyril. It's found in St. Cyril. You can say intrinsic in the sense of terminative principle. It's not the same thing as the terminus that is produced itself, that is the flesh, is intrinsic of Godhead, which is exactly what the diophysite formulation of in hypostaton is. The terminated thing itself is intrinsic of Godhead because it acquires its subsistence in Godhead. That's your position. You don't find this in his
I
position
don't
because of
say
the
it requires its subsistence in the Godhead. It
in
requires
Godhead.
its
Okay, it's in Godhead modified by the person of Christ or the word himself. Okay, could you believe?
well, the Godhead.
I'm
Well, the
guessing.
term Godhead itself implies not to the to the entire God and to the entire Godhead. I mean, the fathers themselves
The
explain what the
second
term is
council of
Godhead.
Constantinople says one member of, you can say the Godhead was crucified in the mode of being of the Son. So that's my point. You can say the Godhead
Okay, wait.
insofar
Where
of the
does
mode of
Second
being.
Constantinople? Hold on a second. Where does Second
Do you want me
Constantinople
to
say the
go?
entire Godhead?
I
So
can go find it
it
for you.
says one of
I
them.
can.
Sure,
I
go ahead.
didn't say that. I didn't say that. What the hell are you on? I never even said this. I said the Godhead in the mode of being of the Son. You think mode of being is saying the being entirely? You're genuinely confused. So
You
look,
didn't include mode
please
of being. You
listen.
just said it's term
I
it
did.
acquires its
I did.
subsistence
It's
in the
on clip.
Godhead. No, you literally earlier ago said it acquires
Oh
its
my god.
subsistence in the
It's
Godhead, and I
literally on
denied
clip. I don't know why you're interrupting me. I let you
it's
speak.
not even in clip, dude.
So
I'm literally
again,
asking you to.
oh my gosh. It's on clip. I don't know why you're
Yeah, you
interrupting
can
me.
check the clip. You
Again,
just said
so
yourself that
oh
it
my
acquires
lord.
subsistence in the Godhead. You didn't include any modes of being
Just
whatsoever.
let me know when you're just let me know when you're done, bro. Genuinely. Let me know you're done.
I'm done. Go
Are
ahead.
you done? Thank you. Okay, now that I've clarified what I meant, the motive being of the Son, who is a member of Godhead and is really identified with the divine essence, takes on a human nature and terminates the intrinsic of himself to have its subsistence. That's what an hypostaton is. You don't find this in him or St. Gregory of Tatev because he thinks that the terminative principle of flesh is intrinsic because it's Godhead's terminatio liberia that actually terminates it. That's a different position.
Wait, can you repeat that last statement again?
I said, repeat that?
Can you repeat the last statement?
Yeah, the terminatio liberia being intrinsic is a different thing than saying the terminated thing itself is intrinsic. The terminatio liberia is just the active will of God, because he's said to be according to mastery. Most diophysites take the commitment of mastery, which is saying that um, the active will of Godhead is what's intrinsic, and you can denominate intrinsicality of the content of that terminative principle, which is agreed upon both sides. That's pretty much saying that the flesh is anhypostatic, which is completely true. Which is exactly what I'm saying. We agree to that. My position with Saint Gregory of Tatev is he doesn't affirm that it's intrinsic insofar of subsistence, because that's saying that the terminated thing, the produced terminus, the flesh, is said to be subsisting in Godhead or in the mode of being of the Son, which is a different statement than saying the terminative principle is intrinsic. You know why? And to prove this is because he says the adversary says if you say one unite, then why don't you say unified in person? And then he says the unification of person implies division while the nature is united indivisibly, which is exactly our position. He thinks that to say two natures indivisibly in one person is completely wrong, which is inhypostatic, which is the inhypostatic position found in Damascene and De Fide. He thinks that the two natures are indivisible and there's two perfections insofar that there's inhypostatic principle. That's a whole different proposition. That's my point.
Okay, are you willing to show that quote where he speaks about this in depth so I can get in track, where it says that the reason why, then why don't you say unified in person? Because person without nature is designation only and not being. And again, unification in person implies division, while nature is united indivisibly. Third, if the word became unified in person only, not in nature, then Christ would have been Son of God in person by designation only and not in substance. Okay, the only thing
You
I
see his
see him
point?
talking about is that the reason why you can't say person in one person, two natures isn't in as much it has to do with subsistence, but in as much as this term person is going to be empty and there isn't going to be actual union of natures because term nature is what gives being to person at the end of the day. And if you're just gonna say one person in two natures, at least for him, you're going to say that Christ would have been Son of God only in person designation and not in substance. So to say in nature is going to be the same thing as to
Good.
say
Do
in
you believe
substance,
that
right?
Christ is? Do you believe Christ is one in nature or in one in substance?
Are you asking for my position or are you asking for Gregory Tatev's position?
Your position because you hold to in hypostasia and you claim that he holds to in hypostasia. Do you think that Christ is one in substance?
Uh, no, I wouldn't say he's one in substance.
Good, good. Now, why does he say in the quote I just sent that he is
Yeah,
unified in
because he's
substance and because the
yeah,
unity
because
is
he thinks.
indivisible
Hold
according to nature?
Yeah, because the way in which I understand two natures to be in one person is not the same way in which he takes it, because he takes person as an empty designation without this term nature, whereas I understand it
That's
in a
not what I
way
asked you.
that you're asking me. You asked me if I claim if I claim that he teaches in hypostaton, then it would not be indifferent for me and for him to say that there are two natures in one
I
person,
didn't
and
even
yet
say
there's
any
a
of that.
difference, and he rejects that.
I didn't
You
even say
literally
any of that.
asked that, dude. You
I
literally
didn't.
asked that.
You
Yes, you
didn't
did.
even you didn't even repeat the main word I said. Genuinely, track. I asked you, why does he say the oneness is in substance, but you guys claim it's two in substance?
On coming to understand in what sense do the different senses in which he uses substance and the way in which we take it to be substance from the fathers, and why we reject it to say there's oneness in substance. We can say there's a substantial unity, but we wouldn't say there's one substance. And again, I'm asking you,
Repeat
the
that.
way in which he is explaining it differs from what we understand for two natures to be in one person or in one hypostasis.
Sorry, I didn't even hear any if that was muted. Answer my question. I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Okay, so I'll repeat it again. But and I'll repeat your question. So in case if I get something wrong, you'll just tell me what I got wrong. So your
Perfect.
question is, ultimately. If I claim that he teaches anhypostaton, then it would not be wrong for me to say for both of us to say two natures in one person, and yet he rejects it because he takes it the union to be in one substance and one nature, whereas we reject it. And of course, if he did teach anhypostaton, we would also say it that there's one substance and one nature, but yet we reject it. And so, what is the reason behind this rejection? Is that what you're
It's not
asking?
even that. No, my question is really simple. In
Hmm.
hypostaton, according to Damascene, says that the flesh remains to be a substance. It's terminated intrinsic, or is the terminus is intrinsic of the person of Christ, or the God the Word Himself. Um, he doesn't teach that because of the fact that he still thinks that the union is of substance and that there's one substance. If there's one substance, and Damascene, who defines in hypostaton, says that there's two, presumably he doesn't teach the same thing as Damascene, and so he doesn't teach in hypostaton.
Okay, I think I get your argument now. Hold on a second. So you're saying objectively there cannot be an hypostaton Gregory Tatev because in order for there to be an hypostaton, as we have claimed, there has to be two things. But because for Gregory Tatev there is one after the union and not two, technically speaking, there can't be an hypostaton of a thing which is already in unity in composition of one nature. So one nature cannot be another because there is a composition between them in which there's one nature, one substance, so that this one substance cannot be in another. Is
Kind
that
of,
what you're
but the
arguing?
fact, kind of, but the fact that you guys claim there's two substances as in hypostaton followers, but he doesn't. To hold to in hypostaton, you have to hold to two substances. Is my point. He doesn't teach that.
Well, not necessarily, but okay.
Regarding the incarnation,
I mean, and hypostaton ultimately just says that humanity doesn't acquire its own rational individuality, but as it is terminated by the person of the word
that's
intrinsically,
it
it,
doesn't
it
have its own.
acquires.
That's a different thing. That's anhypostaton. Anhypostaton is saying it's terminated intrinsic of God, Godhead according to the mode of being of the Son.
Yeah, and this termination is going to be understood in a respect that in a respect of subsistence or in a level of subsistence or
Exactly.
communicability, subject to predication, subject of operation, so on and so
Yep.
forth. All right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, cool.
He
All
doesn't
right.
teach that.
And I'm saying that and again you said that in order for there to be an hypostaton you necessarily have to enumerate two natures, and I'm saying
Because
that's not.
yes,
Yeah, and I'm
it's a.
saying that.
Let me explain why. Anhypostaton is an intrinsic denomination of the terminus of the flesh.
What
An
is an
intrinsic.
intrinsic denomination? Sorry to interrupt.
You don't know what intrinsic denomination. You don't know intrinsic denomination.
I know there's an extrinsic denomination, but I don't think I ever heard anyone use the term
My bad.
intrinsic denomination.
The terminus, it's yeah, you can say it's intrinsic according to the terminus. You're gonna say extrinsic according to receptive capacity. Intrinsic denomination is just an instance naming where some property, let's say um, let's just say some property. It's going to be where you're naming this property according to the support itself or the subsistence of God the Word. You're going to say the flesh itself is denominated intrinsic according to subsistence, but extrinsically denominated according to receptive capacity, for example. And receptive capacity is extrinsically denominated, which is saying you're just going to name some relation where that thing itself bears a support according to the fact that that support is God the Word, and He's bearing it by some relation, and that receptive capacity is by way of relation. So that's my point. So to have those two relations, you need to have duality because they're relations. There's no relations according to one substance, so you can't even have that.
Okay, but I mean, you would agree that this oneness is not understood in a manner of simplicity, but in a manner of complexity or composition, correct?
I mean,
Uh,
the nature.
Well, you're saying that the substance, the unity, the terminus of the unity is one substance. However, you can agree that this one substance is not taken simply, but according to composition.
I mean, I don't know what you. I think if you're taking simplicity, that could take a
I'm
lot
no,
of
okay,
routes.
no, I'm not taking simplicity as in this divine
They take.
simplicity stuff.
I'm saying that could take like different routes. Like you can say it's like if you're taking it to just mean composition, yeah, the union is a composition.
No, I'm saying
That's
no,
just
no.
the
I'm
best way to
saying
answer.
this one nature which affects from the union. Is it a simple thing or is it a composite thing for you guys?
Is it a simple thing or is it a composite thing?
Mhm.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, what do you take simplicity to mean there?
It's just gonna be, you can say, if we're gonna take simplicity and complex, if we take, understand, of course, simplicity and complexity in regards to the fact that complex composition or complexity applies to things which are substantially united with one another, although there's a certain sense in which you can say these are things and you speak of them plurally, although they are substantially united. Whereas a simple thing is just going to be one simpliciter, as you
Oh
have
yeah, you
earlier
can say
made the
that.
statement.
Yeah, if you're just taking that sense, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, you would agree that this one nature or one substance, at least, is
Is a
composite
composition.
and not.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a composite.
so and would you say that the things which became composite, in regards to their identity, are not abolished, but their distinction is preserved? Would you say that?
Are you saying their qualities, like their properties,
Uh,
the idiomata?
well, not just the idiomata, but the thing in itself as well.
I mean, the subsistence of flesh. I mean, the subsistence of flesh temporally doesn't necessarily like. I don't
Okay,
even know what that's asking. I
all
mean,
right,
you
all
can
right.
say,
Let me clarify this in a way which can be understandable. You say there's two natures prior to the union, right?
yep.
Okay. And just to be clear, like in what respect of time do you take this priority and posteriority to be in the middle? Would you say this prior? I
We
mean,
can
obviously you
speak.
would affirm it in respect of time, but and it's going to be in a conceptual order. But like in
Yeah,
regards to the priority of this conceptual order, where there's a sense in which you can enumerate them as two natures or two things. First of all, I'd ask, like, what is the principle that gives you the idea that
you can.
prior to the union, like you can say there's two things? Like, what is the principle of that two-ness of those things, so to say?
The principle which lets you speaks. Wait, are you just asking like how do you know that there's two prior to the union?
Um, well, not I mean, yeah, in a like chopped up way, you can say that. Yeah.
I mean, okay. The best way to explain it is pretty much, let's say you locate some composite object. Um, if you have some like opposing predicates of that one singular object, I don't know if you're aware of what like the fathers coined out. It's just known as something known in the mind alone. So in the mind alone, you're able to like conceive of things that are said to be two hypostases, and these two hypostases are said to be the constituents which made that composite thing, because it has actual opposition according to the one thing. um, this is kind of known in like, if you know how hylomorphism works. In hylomorphism,
Mm-hmm.
prior to first act, you can have some epistemological priority of the two things that constituted that first act, such that obviously you're not going to say that this is like temporally two things that actually existed and then they became one, because for hylomorphic composition to even occur, you need to do the two things themselves to make composition, because it's an imperfect two imperfect things that are making one thing to make the complete thing. So you can have some epistemological distinction due to the fact of the epistemological priority of the two things. So in Christ, you can have some epistemological two hypostases because of the fact that the flesh has opposing predicates with the divinity.
Okay, so you can say that it's an epistemological principle which is not, which you can say that this enumeration it cannot be independent of the intellect, and this enumeration works prior to the union, in as much that prior to the obviously coming of the together, you can preserve these opposite predicates, and by preserving these oppositions prior to the union, you can enumerate them as two. But now that these things have united, properly speaking, you can't enumerate them. Would you agree with that?
Um,
Like with my explanation.
kind of, I guess. I
Okay.
guess sure.
So you cannot enumerate them, but the things which were prior to the union, do they remain as what they are after the union? I mean, you can't enumerate them. Sure, they become substantially united to the point that one thing, so the humanity, cannot, you can say it cannot be substantially in and on itself without the God and without its terminating principle, which the God had in the mode of in the mode of person, the Son. Um, unless if I've explained that wrong, because if you take that to be an hypostaton for us,
And
but
hypostaton is
regardless to
not
that.
necessarily the same thing. Um,
Okay,
my
so then
position
I'm
is just
just gonna ask
simple.
you the same thing. Like, if you, I understand why you would enumerate them, and then after the union, you reject the enumeration. Inasmuch duality dissolves unity, and because there's a substantial union, you cannot enumerate them into a duality. But the things as what they are, outside of these perception or enumeration, as what they are prior to the union, do they remain as what they are after the union?
I don't know what that's asking. Do you mean like the things what they are? That's kind of like trivial. Are you denoting the qualities, the idiomata, like the properties themselves, or are
Well, it's
you
not the
speaking about the
properties,
natures
but
themselves?
you can say it's the underlying sort of nature for these properties, not merely the properties themselves.
The natures themselves. No, you don't say that there's two natures after.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to enumerate it because they're substantially united. But
Yeah,
like, okay, I can get that. You don't have to enumerate them. But as there are two natures prior to the union, and if we do, of course, take away the enumeration, there is spoken plurality of natures prior to the union, in which after the union, these two natures are enumerated as one by virtue of the substantial union. You can still say that the natures, which is spoken of plurally prior to the union, can be spoken of plurally after the union, even if you don't have to enumerate as two. And this plurality is grounded
what?
not merely by word, but in a certain real way. You get what
There
I'm
is
saying?
plurality after the union of quality. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not
I don't
talking
see
about
what
the
the difference
qualities
is.
themselves. I'm not talking about the qualities
Because you're
themselves. I'm
kind of
talking
like
about the natures.
I know. You're kind of equivocating with the qualities and the quantity of the two things. The quantity themselves is the two hypostases. Yeah, the two hypostases are conceived prior to the union. But after the union, St. Cyril says there's a middle point, and St. Gregory of Tatev says the same unironically. There's a middle point in
Mhm.
which they make that henosis, and that henosis results the one unified person. That one unified person is the one nature because the one nature sustains the lack of division within the one person. So you can say that the two natures making one, you're gonna designate that according to that middle point, and then you can say there's actual differentia according to quality within that one object. There's no issue with that.
Okay, so okay, now I get what you're saying. And again, I understand what you would mean by qualitative differences, but I would like you to elaborate more on what you would mean by quantitative differences.
Quantitative differences is himself is like the subsistence of the two hypostases.
Okay, so quantitative or enumerative would just apply to beings as a whole themselves.
Uh, it would be the two things that make the union. Yeah.
Okay, and according to what respect are these things called quantitative? Is it in as much as they denote the whole being?
Is in as much as the fact that they are constituents that make that one whole thing.
Okay, so it's called quantitative in as much it denotes the constituents.
They're denoted as quantitative because of the fact they're hypostases, insofar that their subsistence and their subsistence themselves are said to constitute one thing, which is the one subsistent or the one incarnate nature. So the reason why we call them there's a quantitative distinction in the mind is because of the fact that there's two hypostases. The two hypostases make one hypostasis, and then within that one hypostasis there's differentia of quality or the idiomata themselves of the two constituents.
Okay, so prior to the union, taken conceptually, there's a way in which your mind can conceive the two natures, each with its own subsistence, and that after the union, it does not any longer conceive the natures in respective to its subsistence, but rather this one composite nature which resulted from the union of these two.
Repeat that, like the last part.
Okay, so I'll repeat. Yeah, no worries. I'll just repeat it in a short form. The mind perceives the two hypostases, which means it perceives these two natures in respective with each its own subsistence. These two things become substantially united, which means the mind no longer perceives these
Yep.
things, bearing that it's talking about the mind. Okay, so
The
prior
mind
to
can
the
still
intellect,
conceive it by distinction.
the mind
It can
conceives prior
distinguish
to
it.
the union. The mind prior to the
Yeah,
union
the whole prior to the union thing, the whole
Mhm.
prior to the union thing is epistemological. It requires an intellect that can encapsulate such knowledge. So you're able to know two hypostases epistemologically because the flesh itself isn't some temporal thing that was rendered as subsisting and then became one in henosis. Saint Severus says that it was not as if at first of all the things that were existing are of duality, such that there was two hypostases which then gathered together into one hypostasis, for this is both ignorant and impossible. Yet St. Athanasius says, as soon as there was flesh, there is flesh of God the Word. My point is that the flesh itself, the reason why it's known to us as said to be two hypostases epistemologically, is because the flesh itself is said to be in henosis with God the Word to make that one product. And that one product has formally opposing predicates. That is, for example, corruptible according to flesh, such that you can be mutable according to flesh, and then immutable according to divinity. And then that actually locates to us in our mind some epistemological priority of the two things that made that constitute thing, the two constituents.
Okay, I think I get your position now. Taken that if you understand quantitative distinction to apply between things which have their own subsistences, and because this is only going to be epistemological, and reality there isn't actually humanity having its own subsistence. Which would bring to my question, like, okay, let's say that what was there anything funny?
Sorry, it's something in the such. Yeah,
Stay
something in
in
the
Oh,
such.
character.
Sorry.
Stay in character.
okay. All right. So then, in reality, then, if this is going to be understood in respect to the epistemological understanding, then what would be the ontological status of the human nature taken in reality? Like, how would you explain that?
It doesn't it's not something that, yeah, it's something the way Saint Athanasius explains it. As soon as there was flesh, there is flesh of God the Word, meaning that it was in henosis with God the Word immediately. Such as soon as there was even a zygote, that flesh is substantially united with God the Word. But because of the fact that the two united, it's not that two hypostases formed and then were united. That's impossible, as Saint Sever says. It's the fact that you can locate it epistemologically in the mind of some priority. So temporally, the flesh doesn't self-subsist. You can only designate that in the mind alone because of the formally opposing predicates.
Okay. All right. I think I get that part now. And now that
It's
you
like
mentioned
this.
that was
I can
St.
give you an example for
Athanasius.
your position.
No, I
I
think
can
I
give
get
you an
you.
example
There's
for your
no, I
position.
think I understood you.
Okay.
I think I understood you. And
Okay.
that you mentioned Severus and St. Athanasius, I think I know the letter you're referencing. All right, then I guess I would have these
Yeah.
following questions in my mind. You agree that there are certain predicates, not saying that these predicates are pretty much their own thing, because I know that Severus himself says that the predicates of humanity become the predicates of the word. Not, in a way of mixture, but that these human things, such as, suffering, corruptible, so on and so forth, is not said as its own, as being its own thing, but that becomes the very words, the very thing of the word. But this is more so understood in respect that, these things such as suffering, corruptibility, so on and so forth, are spoken in respect to human nature according to a qualitative sense. Is that like how you would explain it?
It's according to humanity in a qualitative sense. You can speak about, for example, Saint Gregory Bar Hebraeus says, there's the dwell, the one that's dwelt within, and then the one that dwells. That is the humanity and the divinity. There's qualitative distinction in that because of the idioms. Um, you can locate that within the one object. The difference is saying that there's actually two natures because of those two qualities. That's a whole different topic.
Okay, yeah, and I would ask, what would you say is the proximate principle by which for these respective qualities?
The proximate principle, why their qualities.
No, the proximate principle by which of these qualities? Like, what is the
You're
principle
gonna
by
have to
which?
elaborate on that.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
so when I say a principle by which for those qualities,
I'm sure
the
about
way
that.
you
I know what
mentioned
that
it.
is.
Hmm, okay, well, we brought the examples such as corruptibility, suffering, so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
what I'm asking is, like, what is the principle by which these qualities sort of are, so to say, that these qualities exist, that you can perceive those qualities? What is the principle by which these
They're
qualities
apt.
be?
Yeah. The aptitude of like because like I'm a conceptualist. I don't think properties per se like exist or subsist without supports or like subjects. I think the subject by which this
Same
property,
character.
let's say, the two properties
Same character.
themselves, what, the reason why the two properties themselves exist, set of properties, sorry, is because of the one object. That's how they're known to us.
Okay, so it's going to be this thing which is not quantitatively, in respect, what you say is not quantitatively
The
distinguished.
the
So it's
qualitative
ultimately going to be this.
the qualities themselves are designated in one quantity, a singular quantity that is the
And the
hypostasis.
singular quantity is the principle by which, for the qualities of these human properties.
The principle by which they exist, yeah.
Okay, and in this one composite substance is going to be the principle by which, for these human qualities, ultimately.
There's the principle by which they exist is within the one object. That doesn't mean that there's two internal principles in Christ. I don't know how do you derive that.
No, I didn't. I'm just asking you to try to understand your position even better. Um, okay, so it's this one composite substance, and these qualities have this one composite substance as its principle by which. And since you mentioned in reality, I mean, in reality, as there was flesh, it was the flesh of God, the Word. There wasn't a moment in reality, so to say, that there was two, and then it instantly, and then it became one. But as soon as the flesh
Correct.
came, it became substantially united, and so there was
Correct.
this one composite
Hmm.
substance, and this one
Yeah,
composite substance was the
exactly.
principle by which for the humanity. Okay. Um, and this all same one composite substance, so to say, is also the principle by which, I mean, I wouldn't, I don't know if I would say this one composite substance is the principle by which for the divine qualities. I think that would be an inadequate language, so to say. But what would you say?
What is inadequate? Like, what do you mean by inadequate? What's inadequate with what I said?
No, when it comes in respect to divinity, it's inadequate. So to use terms like qualities, unless if it's explained in a certain way.
It's explained in a certain way. Like, you can say quality insofar of the properties of Godhead. That's analogical. If you know how analogy is known to us in like
Yeah.
the scholastics. Yeah, so you
Hmm.
can say idiomata, you can say about those to be qualities because the fathers understood idiomata to be convertible with quality. So you can say there's two qualities within the one singular object. That's analogical because like the way we even know idiomata is presumably understood from like imperfect things, but we're able to predicate that to God because of analogical predication. So you can speak about it analogically only. Like you're not going to say simpliciter God has like idiomata the way we understand it in imperfect things. You're only having that perception because of the imperfect things, and you're giving it analogically.
Same character.
Okay. So taking that explanation, which I don't think I have any issues with, you would say that this one composite object is the principle by which for the divine qualities and the human qualities in question.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I know you probably faced this question many times, and I think it is answerable. But again, I'm asking this not because I want to pull any gotchas, but rather to understand your position more properly. So, how would you say that this one composite nature is the principle by which, for the divine qualities and for the human qualities, if this one object, which has the divine qualities as its principle by which, and the divine qualities having being shared by all of the triad, would not also have this one composite substance as its principle by which? I think you know what I'm trying to argue with. I think you know what
The
I'm trying to
quality.
bring an argument
I
to.
mean, what I don't know what you mean by shared by all of Godhead.
Okay, so the divine qualities have this one composite object as its principle by which, and these divine qualities are also shared by the other two persons of the Godhead. Do they also share this one composite substance? Because the principle
No,
by which for
because
the. Okay, go ahead.
No, I can explain why. The union is according to hypostasis. That is that God, the Word Himself, takes on the human nature. Um, because of that, you're not you to agree that there's actually real distinction between paternity, filiation, and inspiration. So you're not going to designate flesh intrinsic of the like not intrinsic or external. You're not going to designate it in any way with like paternity or spirated um, supposits. You're going to designate it in henosis with God the Word. That is the filiated object. Um, so you're going to say that the union is according to hypostasis. It's not quiddities that united for you to designate it according to the other three persons. Um, but you're able to say that because there's two qualities. Sorry, someone said something. Because you're able to designate two qualities within the one object, as Saint Severus and Saint Gregory of Tatev say. You can say there's actual opposition, opposing predicates, or actual opposition within the two qualities. Um, that's not an issue, and it's in different respects within the one object. If that answers your question.
Mm, okay, just to repeat what you've explained in terms of my objection, like I'll repeat my objection and I'll repeat your response. My objection was that this one composite nature, if it's the principle by which of the divine qualities and all of the two persons shared this to share these qualities, how do they not share this one composite nature as well? And your answer is that, well, because the humanity is not taken into the unity with the supposit of the Father and the Spirit, but rather in the hypostatic union with the supposit of the Word, by which resulted this one composite, substance. It isn't that there's one composite substance affected by all of the three supposits being united, but that it being united to the
Yeah.
supposit of the Word. Okay,
Yeah, you can say like
so.
the because it's you'd agree it's a divine providence. Like all three persons willed it, but you're not gonna say that like the terminus itself, like the incarnation, is like the person of the Father or the Spirit. It's like the person of the Son himself. That's my point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And if I were to use Scotistic terms between efficient cause and formal cause, taken in an
Yeah.
inadequate manner. The efficient cause is all to try it, but the formal cause, technically speaking, is the supposite of the word. Okay, but all right, yeah. I think I see what you're trying to get there. But I'll bring that same argument again with a different qualifier. Maybe that'll make my question even better because I think I may have misphrased it. I mean, you would agree that prior to the incarnation, the divine qualities have their the divine nature as its principle by which they may be designated, right?
Did he say the principle by which the quality,
So,
like what, like
so
the divine qualities?
the divine qualities have the divine nature as the principle by which they may be designated by us.
It's designated. I mean, sure, but like the hypostatic marks themselves are designated by the suppositive of the word, who is really identified with the divine quid.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, can you repeat the last thing? I don't
The
think I
hell?
heard you.
Yeah, what's
Oh,
this
I just said. Oh, wait, what did I just hear? The hypostatic like marks themselves, like let's say filiation. You're not gonna designate that like to be like the essence itself. Like you can add off like some formal distinction. You can say it's really identified. That's my point. But if you're saying
Mm-hmm.
like the quality of like omnipotence and stuff, I guess
Mm-hmm.
so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Who just farted on
And if
V2?
the
What the fuck is that? Yo, who just farted on V2?
Okay, so taking that the divine nature is the principle by which for the divine qualities, and if I'm equivocating on anywhere, you're free to correct me. Um, uh, and then now and within the incarnation, there affects this one composite substance, which also becomes the principle by which for the divine qualities and the human qualities. And so my question, again, I think which may be framed in this way, is that prior to the union, you had this divine nature, which was the principle by which of the divine qualities. Now you have this one composite substance, which is the principle by which of the divine qualities and the human qualities. So I'm saying that the divine nature also remained the principle by which of the divine qualities, or was the principle by which all of a sudden this one composite substance thing. And again, I'm not saying
The
this for a straw
principle.
man, but to understand your
Oh
position
yeah,
more
the
clearly.
principle. Yeah, the
Mhm.
principle by which the quality of like the person of like the divine nature, or like the divinity. That's the suppository of God, the Word, and those qualities are like qualitatively distinct from the qualities of what do you call it, the humanity. Like the principle by which they're said to be known, they're different. Like they're said to be known in the one object, but the way they're obtained or like convertible from like the way in which they're known to us is the one object, but the way in which they're convertible or known from is going to be the divinity. So you can say like Christ did X according to divinity, Christ did that according to humanity. Like that's fine.
Okay. So at the last statement, you made this clarification that there's going to be understood in a way which we can know, and this is from this one object, and in a way in which they're uh, convertible, so to say. And this convertibility
Yo,
can be
can
grounded
someone get
in.
a thermometer on Mateo, bro? This dude keeps burping on his mic. This dude keeps burping on his mic.
Okay. You said that these two, but when it comes to in respect to convertibility, I mean, it's not going to be in the same way, since we would say that it is not according to his divinity, so to say, that Christ himself would say. Mm, and and this convertibility can be grounded. At least that's what I'm going to assume here for your position. You're free to correct me. That this convertibility can be grounded in as much as there's qualitative distinction.
Uh, I mean, not really why I said you can convert it because of the fact. I mean, you can convert it because of the fact that the qualities pertaining to divinity would come from the suppositive God, the Word, but the qualities that pertain to humanity come from the flesh itself, like the hypostasis of flesh, which united with God, the Word, to make one nature.
Okay. All right. Now we got this interesting thing from convertibility. You say that the divine qualities come to from the divine nature, which in reality is also the supposite of the word, whereas the human qualities come from the flesh. And because the word and the flesh become one composite substance, you can say that the two qualities have this one composite substance as its principle by which, inasmuch this composite substance is the word himself, wholly united with this flesh.
Sure,
Okay.
kind
But you
of,
would say
yeah.
that although the word and the flesh became united, they still uh, can be, in a sense, be distinguished, because unity does not abolish distinction, but rather abolishes division, as Saint Cyril himself and Severus himself
Yeah,
would
it
say.
abolish. Unity abolishes duality. So you're gonna have like actual real distinct qualities, as Severus himself says. The difference
Okay, so
pertains to natural quality. I can show you if you want.
yeah, sure, go ahead for the sake of the audience.
Um, sure. I think this is fine, but you can continue. This is like just there.
Okay, I'm just gonna read that if you don't mind. So Bar Herparius, 11th century. After this discussion, you won't mind if you send Bar Herparius's resources to read, if you do have one.
I mean, I haven't fully translated it. Like I just translated a section of it.
Okay. You
It's
see
not.
that we
He's
must
not
also
fully
confess the
translated.
difference between
Sorry.
the natures from which the one Christ is. Oh no, sorry. You were saying something?
No, I just said that he's not fully translated. That's all.
Oh, okay. You see that we must also confess
By
the
the way,
difference
in like
between
10 minutes
natures.
I have to go, but
Yeah, it's fine. I have to go
go ahead.
to. It's like 3 a.m. I gotta wake up to go to work
Oh,
tomorrow.
you.
So it's
That's
fine.
fine.
We can continue where we left off. So I remember we got
Yeah,
left
sure.
off to the anhypostaton, so we can get to that. I'm just doing this to understand your position more better, so there won't be any misunderstandings in the future, hopefully. See that we must
Yeah,
also
sure.
confess the
It's
difference
fine.
between the natures from which the one Christ is, taking that this difference is speaking in a qualitative sense and not in a quantitative sense, from which and avoid the cutting into two and extol one Son in Christ and one incarnate nature of God the Word. Okay.
Okay,
I think there is one
that's it.
total max. I wouldn't say it's a victory. Okay, let me just get to this interesting question. Since you read of scholastics, I think you will understand the question which I'm going to take. In terms of the act, not of the act of subsistence or active, not the existence of substance or the existence of person, but the very act of existence itself. Would you say that the act that the humanity is terminated by the divine act of existence, or the Latin word esse, or by the human esse, for the Scotistic position? I think if
Are you
I
just
clarify.
asking if humanity has an actus essendi? I don't
Mhm.
think there's a human actus essendi.
Okay,
I
so
think
the
there's one
humanity,
actus essendi. That's
and
like
that's the
theandric.
divine, a theandric act is ascendi.
Yeah, I don't think that like you can have a theandric active existence. If you're just saying like qualitatively, you can say that two qualities exist, but I don't think that's enough to say there's two essays in Christ. That's like pretty much what Suarez argues, and I think that's bad. Um, but that's a
Yeah,
whole
but
different issue. Like I don't think you would say there's two essays in Christ as well.
well, I'm still studying on it, and I think if clarified, there wouldn't be issues. If essay is clarified in a certain way, there wouldn't be any issues to it. But I am still studying on it, so if I were to make an official claim on it, I think that would be rather silly for me to do. Rather, just trying to understand your
Yeah,
position
I
on this.
mean
And hmm,
I mean
go ahead.
existence itself, like it's that by which you can say it's that by which something is like denominated
Outside
place,
nothingness.
outside cause, and outside nothing. And
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Um, I don't know if I'm like I would be like I'm not fully looked into it, but I'm not like sure if I'll denominate flesh to have its own actus essendi. And like for the diophysites, I think like probably like the account like the Thomists give is like the best, but the human existence is like known to us according to the fact that it's one in with God the Word. So there's no to actus essendi because it's in like in union within the person.
Okay, sure. All right. Since you said you haven't looked into it, I'm not going to press much into it. All right. So originally, I remember we made the claim that in respect to convertibility, the divine qualities come from the Word, and in respect to convertibility, again noted, the human qualities come from the flesh. And because the Word and the flesh are now one composite substance, and because it is composite, there's a certain sense in which you can say that the two qualities have this one object as its principle by which, inasmuch this object is composite and doesn't lose its convertibility. Correct?
I mean, I guess so. Like I don't know if I'll be able to remember all that tomorrow, but it's like
No,
too
it's
late.
okay. I mean,
I don't
I'm
I
think
don't
noting
I'll
know.
be
it down.
either.
I'm noting it down. I
Yeah,
also
I don't think
remembered the
either.
proposition, which I'll set forth right now. If anyone wants it, they can write it. I believe we were discussing whether Gregory Tatev taught anhypostaton or not.
Yeah, I already have that saved in the chat. Like, I mean, yeah,
Okay,
I
that's
already
cool.
have that saved in the chat. Okay.
All right, that's cool. We'll get to
All
that
right.
tomorrow or whenever God wills it.
All
Cool.
right.
All right. So
Okay.
remembering that, and since you mentioned about you haven't studied much about essay, I'm not gonna press into it. But I'm just gonna try to repeat as much as I can from what you've explained to make sure I got your position correctly. That as soon as the flesh was existed, it became God's flesh, which meaning that it
Bro,
substantially
Quincy, turn
united to
down
the
your
point
fan,
that it
bro.
affected into one composite substance. Composite substance understood that the things which became composite, which is the word and the flesh, and in terms of convertibility, each has its own qualities, such as the word having things like uh, omnipotency, omnipresency, and the human flesh having things like corruptibility, tangibility, and that because there was a substantial union between the word and the flesh, the principle by which becomes this one composite object, which, because it is a composition, the word and the flesh do not lose their own identities, but become substantially united into a composite substance. And the two qualities now have this one composite substance as its principle by which, in terms of coming to in the mode of coming for us to come to know. Hence why Severus would say the human properties become the properties of the word. But when it comes in terms of convertibility,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just ask you this on term in understanding what would you exactly explain convertibility to mean and how it can apply in the explanations which I've given, the examples which I've given, such as tangibility
I'll
being
just
of the flesh.
I can explain it if you want.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
What I mean by convertibility is like because you can like again remember the epistemological thing. You
Hmm.
can like convert you can have those qualities themselves to be able to be convertible some epistemological priority. That's what I meant by convertibility.
Okay, so
If you
wait,
remember, that's
wait,
I don't know.
so wait, convertibility is going to be okay. So is it going to be
I think I use
epistemological or
oh no the like the convertibility of the qualities for the distinction. Like you use the qualities to convert to some distinction. That's like there's actually a grounding in reality, which lets you
Can
have that
we
distinction because the qualities
can
are the reason why you have that distinction.
we
okay?
read it?
So because there's a qualitative distinction, there's a sense in which you can say it is convertible, and you can reference to its
Convertible to the
principle by what
distinction, yeah.
convertible to the distinction. And because you can have an epistemological distinction within the intellect that has its foundation in reality, you can say that a thing can be convertible towards its own object, such as tangibility being convertible with the flesh and not the nature of the word.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I
What
think
Can
I
we
get
not
your
hurry this?
position.
epistemological is what
Can we hurry
epistemological
this
is just what
conversation
is
up?
known
Because
as
all of us
epinoia,
have
by the way.
to.
Kind of.
What?
Can we hurry this?
Yeah. Is that all?
Okay, and just for the final thing, before you can go, uh, when you were explaining when you were contrasting your view with my view in terms of hypostaton, although you did say that the humanity has the Godhead as its principle by which, I mean the terminating principle. What would you say was your view exactly on this take that made you as distinct from my view on anhypostaton, which is ultimately saying that humanity acquires its subsistence or termination of communicability in a person or the supposit of the word?
And God the word. Yeah. Um
Hmm.
in hypostaton is highlighting the terminus itself is intrinsic. What like my position is saying is that the terminative principle is intrinsic.
Terminus
That's
is
like the difference.
intrinsic. By terminus here, you reference to
The perfection itself of flesh. The
the
principle of
perfection of the
perfection is
flesh.
intrinsic because yeah, or the complement.
The complement is intrinsic to the word.
As in insofar like the sustenance, I guess you can well my bad, I meant to say to complete flesh itself, like for it to have first act, the reason why it occurs first act is because God the word assumed it, such that I mean first act isn't because God the word assumed it, like that's like independent of the flesh being in hylomorphic composition, right? But the reason why
Hmm.
that hylomorphic composition occurs is because God the Word wanted to have divine providence, and then that divine providence is intrinsic. And so that terminative principle is intrinsic, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
I think
Well,
Mastrius explains it too. But go
are
ahead.
we are we done or not yet? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I'm done.
mean,
Like I can answer if you want.
Maximus. I mean, Maximus. Do you think like the conversation is good for now? For now.
I'll try to think about the explanation. We can get more to it tomorrow. I don't really want to hold your hand much to it since you said you got to go in 10 minutes. And so do I.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a good conversation. Thank you everybody for listening. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for the next conversation. Peace out.
God
Yo,
bless you.
What?
Spawn, thank you for your time, man.
how do I end the recording? What the hell? Yo, Chronic.
What?
Yeah.
Yo, Chronic, how do I bomb? Mod.
Ended.
You kick you. Yeah, and
Bro, why are you like? Why? Why is your mic so loud?
Yo, this dude is like,
you question, boy.
yeah, I got a question for you. Mm.
Yo.
Yeah, so why'd you leave my server?
I never joined. What are you talking
Oh
about?
shoot.
Bro, yes, you did. What are you talking about? There's a server called Battle.
Wallahi, bro.
Well, we
Wallahi,
can
Bani.
clearly see that Theodotus uses Nestorian language, which is why we reject his sermons and we reject Ephesus clearly.
Oh
If you
my
This
actually
god.
read
guy.
Cyril, you would come to the conclusion that Ephesus is not dogmatic. This is what the Eastern Orthodox
What?
believe.
Bro, Gangi, aren't you crowning Judaism right now?
Oh, hey,
This
what's
is
up,
what
everybody?
we believe as Eastern Orthodox. Have you
Yo,
not
hold
read
on.
Theodotus?
Yo,
Bro, we got a Jewish inquirer, bro. What's going on in the server?
me? Wait, Paz, so I got a quick question for you.
Hmm?
Bro, I can't lie. There was just like one video on Instagram that I sent from like Mateo's server. And it sounded exactly like he was like, "This is the literature, bro. They don't appeal to anything else. They don't appeal to the literature." Bro, let me send it real quick. That shit sounds exactly like you.
Let's see.
Hold on.
Well, clearly you don't. Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Let me you just get it real quick. Like,
Yo, Kat, what's your commentary, bro? Kat, what's your commentary saying, bro? What's your review?
bro, fast check the side chat, bro. This shit sounds exactly like you.
Let's see.
You fuckers, yeah, that's literature today. Do you understand me? This is what you're on. You see what I'm saying? You quote from this, read that, point to that, and then go online and say some shit, yeah? Or you don't.
No, that don't sound like me, bro.
No. Bro, I was like, did Fast actually make an Instagram account to comment on like fucking literature and society?
Well, that would be the day, man. That would be the day. It would be all over. Right, is it the real G's now?
I think so. Oh no, not really.
mere existence.
Bro, man, that's that base theology, bro. Mere of existence, bro. Listen, man. Aki, bro. But so it's just getting dark, man. Like, listen, bro. Even though I can allow a man to speak Chalcedonian language in front of me in my own church, nah, it's not good enough, bro.
Not after.
It's not good enough, bro. Even though I accept a Chalcedonian confession, bro, it's not good enough, bro.
Mhm.
Like, it's not good enough, man. You ain't got the answers, Sway. Bro, my new favorite term, I've coined the pseudo theologian, bro. It's my new favorite.
People have been saying this for like centuries.
Nah, bro, but I brought it back. You know what I mean, bro? It was
Oh,
just
okay. Yeah. True. Yeah, you got.
you see what I mean, bro? It was I. So what? So is this the new like debate server people are using?
Mhm. Might be a bit.
Yeah.